she said, clearing the drama. Wanda.
Hey, it's me, Wanda B, and you are tuned in to He Said, She Said on IntellectualRadio.com. It is Sunday. It is a fun day. So excited to be here again here at Intellectual Radio and the beautiful of IntellectualRadio.com.
Yes,
Oh, entire world with me today, James Borishade.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm glad to be back. Feeling a little Henri dressed down and everything. Let's
I know
go get
we
it.
used to, what do they lovingly call you, preacher? Usually you have on your preacher clothes. You looking all
He said, "Come as you
awfully
are."
fly. Come as you are. Well, this ain't church right here,
Oh,
so you can come as you are anytime.
So I came as I is.
And
It's
you
my
look
ebonics. Well, thank you. Thank you.
So,
I feel good too.
That's, you know what, that's even more important than looking good, actually feeling good. Because when you feel good, you actually kind of look good.
You
It
know?
just goes
Yeah,
it goes
yeah.
hand in hand. I'm not in the microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Sorry.
also embracing the eyeglass wear. I gotta wear glasses now to read, so I'm trying to keep them on. It was like I was looking at the screen without
And
my
you
glasses.
keep pulling your phone
I was like,
further and further back, and then I don't have, my arm isn't long enough to fix
Right.
where my eyesight would go. So I was like, okay, now I think I'm going.
I don't think it's live. There we go. All right.
Oh, I didn't actually press it. Hey, you guys, I know I'm supposed to keep talking. I actually do this for a living. I should really know. I usually tell people what to do, and I'm doing exactly what I usually tell people not to do, is to stop talking. You got to keep talking. You guys, that was a pause for the Facebook calls, because my dear friends on Facebook love to chime in, and I like to have them as my Facebook co-host. So not only can you tune in on YouTube and intellectual.com, you can listen on Spreaker, and so many ways you can listen to He Said, She Said here. But my Facebook people, and then you can chime in on YouTube as well, but the Facebook people like to join in, and so I was taking a moment to get them connected. So if you're connected now, please share the broadcast for me. I really appreciate it. So today's topic is, are you the reason for your breakup? So I love it. My absolute favorite thing is when James himself brings up the topic. And why is because I know he got some juiciness for me. This is when he gonna come out the church clothes. When he come out he can do it with them on, but when he comes without them on, I get a whole new. He's always good, so I'm not gonna act like I get something totally new. But he just ornery, like you said.
Are you the reason for your breakup?
So we have a group. He Said, She Said. It's on Facebook. Look for the bumblebee, like Wanda B. Look for the yellow and black. There's some other imitators out there. He Said, She Said, but the one and only is yellow and black. So look for the He Said, She Said logo. Please join our group and join in these conversations that we have on Facebook. So a topic that was posted was very similar to this. Are you the reason for your breakup? Or tell us the reason why you broke up. How did your last breakup end? And that kind of precipitated this for you. So kind of tell us, lead us through why and how.
So I'm in the group with you all, and I read the question, I read the post, and then I started going through the comments, and I literally I counted all the comments, and then I counted all the people who took any form of personal responsibility for the breakup. And I'm gonna say this: 95% of the people blame the other person for the breakup. The 5% that didn't really take accountability, but I gave them some credit for taking accountability. So, for example, one of the people said, we mutually decided, which I felt like, okay, that was at least some accountability. Another person had their mate passed away. So I was like, okay, that's not
even a breakup.
But at least they didn't say, well, he did or she did something.
Well, if he died, yeah.
Literally everybody else.
It is his fault if he died.
Everybody else blamed the other person. Everybody.
So blame the other person. Give us an example of blaming the other person.
Oh
my
God. She wasn't ready for me. He was just dumb. I'm talking about every comment you could possibly think of.
I think I'm going to pull up some of these comments.
Oh,
because,
yes.
That is funny. So thank you again. for the people who are sharing the broadcast. Oh, he said tag him when the show airs. I did not do that because I'm horrible at what I this tagging thing of Facebook.
So let me find some of these comments because I'm actually tuned
We're
into the
gonna look for
broadcast as
some of
well. Yeah.
the comments. Can you you know what? I'm going to type Toussaint's name in here. He's our cyber
He's our cyber host.
cyber co-host out there. I spelled his name incorrectly, so it's not gonna come up. Wait, give me a second. So what would you say though? Because I don't want to put it out there and start this with saying it's incorrect to think that. I just like to know why you feel. Let's start off with some of the
Because
reasons why you feel.
if you don't know your part in the breakup, you're whatever you don't heal in relationship A is going to be what kills relationship B. And so when people say I didn't play a part, or the reason we broke up was it was his fault, or the reason we broke up it was her fault, you're literally going to take this into the next relationship.
Now I'm only playing devil's advocate here, so I'm going to ask you, which I'm usually not
What
a
if
big
it
fan
is
of
his
devil's.
fault?
Not what if it is, but what if they feel like he cheated, and then that's why we broke up. Which then, if they feel that action was the other person's action and not theirs, then that's the reason why
Then
they're
you
not
still got
together.
things to learn because you're dealing with the symptom, not the root.
You're
Not the root.
not the root. Do you know that I just know too many people who are not going to deal with the root of that because it you really feel like that's the other person's fault.
I agree with you. That's the reason for this kind of a conversation.
So you're tuned in to He Said She Said on IntellectualRadio.com, and we are talking about, are you the reason for your breakup? And I know people won't feel like they are because I know some will feel like, well, and we're going to read some from the, I'm not gonna name names because the other day
Right, I
I
didn't either.
commented something on someone's post, and then I was listening to the show and they read my comment from Facebook. I was like, I didn't mean for that to be read out loud. And when that happened to me, I said, okay, note to self, don't do that to other people, because that didn't. I was like, I did not that I care about my opinions getting out there, but it threw me off guard when they said my whole name and said Wanda said, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know this was part of the show. So anyway, Toussaint said it's always somebody else's fault.
Right.
I think most people would feel like it is their fault, or to say that something they went wrong. It is very hard for them to say, well, they cheated and that's my fault. But you don't have to. I think just taking accountability for your part, not trying to. I don't know. Explain that. But first, I really want to find this. I'm going to go to He Said, She Said.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this
And find that who posted it. I think it was
Antonio
Alfonso.
Alfonso. Yep.
So we're going to look for that post so we can read off some of the comments. But let's hear from you. What was the reason for your last breakup?
Ooh. What was the reason for my last breakup? You know what? If I'm being honest with myself, I didn't operate in the essence of my masculine energy at all. I really tried to, and I didn't really understand masculine energy at the time. I was just beginning to learn it. And not doing so really caused the woman I was with to stay in masculine energy. And I thought she was, I thought I misread her feminine energy as masculine energy. I thought because of the way she was speaking, because of the way she was talking, it was masculine energy, when I later learned she was actually operating in the essence of feminine energy, and so was I.
Really?
Yeah. They call it. Yeah. So was I.
So.
Yeah. So was I.
So. The post was the reason your last relationship ended. Give us the short version. So it had over 55 comments. So someone said she was crazy. Someone said money. Is that not taking accountability?
That is absolutely not taking accountability.
Lack of interest on her behalf.
On her behalf. Not your behalf, but her behalf.
But I think some people feel, and I don't want to speak for other people, so please chime in if you are listening live, and if you're not and you hear on the broadcast, That's why I'm going to speak for those people. I think some people feel like that is absolving them of if I don't want to take all the blame, because if I speak from just me, then that is as if they didn't do anything. And I know I've even felt that way a little based on the responses in other past shows. Not exactly this question, but I only speak of my part in my divorce. I only speak from and sometimes I will talk to somebody outside of the show, and when they talk to me, it's as if they paint him now as a saint.
And how does that feel?
And then that makes me feel like, wait, and what? Like I need to defend myself and tell you all the things he did that made me. And then I have to sit and tell myself, well, why do I have to do that? But I think it's caring about what other people think of me that will. I do speak from my own perspective because that has been part of my healing. And I realize I don't even care about his end of it anymore. I mean, I really don't I don't even think about him. And honestly, it's made me, in healing how I feel about the end of my relationship, it's actually made me a lot softer to his part of it.
But so that's when you recognize, that's when you know true healing is taking place. Because when you can get to the place where you actually see the other person's side and you feel softer about the other person's side, true healing has taken place. Most of us go into the next relationship low key bitter with the other person, and this is when you start to punish your next mate for the crimes that your past mate committed.
And I have been definitely, I think part so punishing, but also I had got conditioned to behave in a certain manner based on my past relationship.
Say more about that. What is that? What do you mean by that?
I mean that because to get to now I'm going to have to speak from, I think, totally different right now. So sometimes it's hard to go back to that place and talk from that place, because I don't even think the same way I thought when I got divorced. I don't even have the same thought process, but I have to almost go back there to speak from that place. So to do that, I'm going to have to say that I felt like this is how, and I guess it is punishing. I felt like I had trained myself to try to do things to get him to show he loved me, since I felt like he didn't talk, he didn't communicate. Now I don't feel any of this way now, but I'm just going to talk about how I felt at that time. Like he was a horrible communicator.
Yeah.
He didn't do this. So to the way all the things I used to do with him, I then brought to the next relationship when he wasn't even the same person.
That's what happens. That when you don't heal from the previous relationship, and healing starts with being able to look at the wound and take accountability for how the wound got there. When you don't heal from the last relationship, you're guaranteed to take all of it into the next relationship and resolve the issue in the next relationship,
or not
resolve the issue.
Have the same issues.
You're definitely gonna have the same issue. You're definitely gonna have the same issue. But they
don't get resolved if you still think it's the other person's fault.
Right, exactly. And what tends to happen is you start to react to the next person as though they were the last person. And this is why, have you ever been in a relationship and a guy says to you, I don't even think like that. Like, why would you think I would say that? Or why would you think that's what I meant? Because what's happening is, this is why I tell people, a lot of my clients, you're not qualified to judge the person's actions, because oftentimes we judge people's actions based on the experiences we had with the other person. And so the question I have is, are you really dating your current mate, or are you dating a compilation of the past mates you've been with?
Well, I realized I was like, I had not all my marriage was any form of dysfunction, but I had definitely picked up bad habits, really bad habits. And that those bad habits definitely came into the next one. And this is even at a point where I thought I was kind of on the healing path. I thought I was doing pretty good.
Ain't that something? Yeah. See, that happens when we try to heal ourselves. That's when because I went into I went into a relationship thinking, okay, I'm healed. But I didn't realize I was, again, operating in feminine energy. Tucson made a comment. He said, it's feminine in nature. Masculine energy always takes accountability. here, so to define masculine energy in its simplest forms is basically the buck stops there. That's masculine energy. It's a boundary setter. So basically it sets parameters. So the buck always stops with masculine energy. And so for guys, it's absolutely abnormal to not take responsibility.
Really?
It is. Masculine energy always takes responsibility. It recognizes it is responsible. That is why in the media today, in all different forms of media, we're trying to emasculate men. Men are being emasculated in droves in modern society, or feminized in modern society, and the one of the symptoms of that is a lack of accountability.
But so now, knowing how women think,
Mhm.
are you saying that women, it's feminine not to take accountability?
No, I'm saying it's masculine to take accountability. So listen to me.
But as women, we hear the opposite.
Most people have masculine and feminine traits.
Men and women.
Men and women. So every woman has a tinge of masculine, has a tinge of masculine energy. So when she takes accountability, she's operating in her masculine energy.
Okay.
It is feminine energy is free flowing. It's like water. It's ever changing and ever moving. Masculine energy is where buck stops. That's why I didn't say male and female. I said masculine and feminine energy. But we have both. We operate in both. Men are supposed to operate in their masculine. The dominant energy is
right. To eat.
Oh yeah. That's normal. That's free. That's normal. That's actually the dominant energy for a male should be masculine, and the dominant energy for a female should be feminine, historically. But now it's significantly changed. Significantly changed. I would venture to tell men, and I know I'm not about to get no applause for this one. So whatever happens in a relationship, if you really are operating in your masculine energy, the male will take responsibility, period. Point blank.
I don't think it's fair, though, because some men take responsibility even when it's not there.
Masculine energy has nothing to do with fair.
Okay.
It just doesn't. It has everything to do with accountability, responsibility, and availability.
I'm going to get to some of the comments. I think I missed some, so you may have to get to them. Chris, hey Chris, thank you for tuning in. I know the Bears are playing, so I didn't expect any of my guys to be through here, but thank you. He says, even biblically, God always holds the man accountable for what happens in his household. And
that
then he
true.
said, compilations of other mates in many cases been there for sure. Oh, he's answering the question. I think. A question that we posed earlier. And then Tucson asked me, hey Kelly Renee. She's giving some claps. I'm sure that's from the James said. And then Tucson said, wow, what were some of those things that you tried to get him to do to show his love? And I'll go back.
I was wondering that too. Come on, let us.
And I should probably do to show his love. Or what I should say that if he didn't do something, I had to think about that. I had to think about that because my mind is doing one thing, so I had to think about that. So Tucson also said that is why women don't traditionally apologize. So it's by our nature not to.
Feminine energy
is the feminine energy.
Yeah, it's natural not to apologize because you're on to the next thing.
So, that's interesting. But is that right?
I didn't say right or wrong.
Okay.
I said natural.
Okay. But natural has to be right? No, I guess not. Because I want you to wear deodorant.
There should be a balance
for you to stink.
Right. Because natural that would stink. It should be a balance to apologize, but that doesn't mean that they do. So
we should have a balance of masculine and feminine. Women should have more of the feminine, or should the balance be
the balance should be about 80-20.
80-20 within
on both ends. Yes.
On both ends.
Yes. Men should be 80% masculine, 20% feminine. Now what's happening in society, we flip that. Men are now 80% feminine, 20% masculine. That does not work. And now women are 80% masculine, 20% feminine. It just does not work. And so here's what ends up happening. In a relationship, you have what you call there's a synergy. It's synergistic. But the synergy does not take place if you have feminine versus feminine, masculine versus masculine. So wherever there is masculine, the feminine will tend to yield. So if you're operating in most of your masculine energy, your mate will almost automatically flow to his feminine energy.
When you operate in your masculine,
feminine will always yield to masculine. It just will. And I'm not talking about male or female will always yield to male. I said feminine energy will always yield to masculine energy. It just will. So if she is operating in her masculine energy, he will almost always yield unless he is absolutely aware of the different energy types.
Where he knows that you're operating in masculine. So
right.
He can see that, he senses that, and then, oh, that's interesting. Wait, Tucson said, no, it's not right. It's just where you operate from. Y'all first thought is not my issue.
He's talking about apologizing, I think.
Oh, okay. So, I think I said, is that right or wrong? And he said, oh, no, it's not right. When I asked about, okay. So I know for me, and like I said, when I'm going to take myself back when we first separated, divorcing, and it was easy to say, to go to list all these different things. He didn't communicate. He didn't communicate. He didn't do this. Now, he's the reason that caused me to do this.
Let's pause that for a second. He didn't communicate. Let's start there. This is one of the reasons it's imperative to understand the different natural orders of energy that God created. Because a lot of times what society has us believing today is that men are supposed to communicate like women. So I have a lot of clients who walk into my office saying to me, the woman is saying, he doesn't communicate with me. And by the time we get to it, her expectation is for him to talk to her like her girlfriend. But when he does, she loses respect for him. So he is in a catch-22.
Feminine energy.
Bingo.
And we are not attracted to feminine energy.
Yes.
Well, unless I don't know what.
You're not. Most women are not attracted to feminine energy. Right. Right.
But are not attracted to. And now I'm starting to think maybe even women who like women sometimes still. That's why they choose the stud. They are still somewhat attracted to masculine energy.
Right.
So, but. I won't go into that dynamic, but so, and Chris says energy dynamics, and that makes sense to me because I was offering some advice, and I don't want to put anybody, but not talking to my daughter about her relationship.
Oh yeah, see, I was just about to mention my son. Go ahead.
And her relationship with her, and I noticed something when she was telling me that she, I should say a person, and I shouldn't. I don't mean to put her business out there, so I'm going to try to say this generically and in a helpful, loving way. And this is something we discussed. So, about her relationship with her boyfriend, and she was telling me how she's. And I've been the same woman, so I recognized it. I was the exact same person as her, helping them do this and doing this and doing this. And pretty much now, I didn't think of the term masculine energy at the time, but I told her he's going to start resenting you for all this. What you're doing right now that you think is helpful, is actually not. He's not receiving that as being helpful. So I would offer you to maybe pull back from doing those things because that doesn't make a man feel good when you're doing it. Right. When you're doing that. And now he's actually starting to resent or get angry at you. Because now it seems as if it can make him feel bad about himself because he wants to. I think most men want to operate in their masculine energy, don't they? Now I'm going to ask you this. I'm not trying to speak for men. I'm trying to learn. Today's
male is in a bit of a conundrum. I got to take my glass off of this. Most men,
you can't see with your glasses on.
I can't see. Larger, I can see. Now the screen is blurry. Most men. Wow. Most men want to, by nature, operate in their masculine energy.
They operate
by nature, operate in their masculine energy.
They start off with that.
They start off like that, but have been conditioned that their masculine energy is toxic.
And that's a new phrase. I mean, I've never heard that phrase.
It's a very new phrase. It is designed to feminize men. But so
The term
toxic masculinity is designed to feminize black men. But that we can really go deep down that path. So most men want to operate, their natural order is to operate in their masculine energy, but they've been conditioned to operate in feminine energy. And when they operate in feminine energy, they feel something's not right. And so they end up fighting themselves. You should watch when your man goes quiet. 9 out of 10 times he's wrestling with himself. Because what he would naturally do, he can't do. Most men are wrestling with themselves when they go quiet, or that is how they deal with their hurt. So I would say it's natural for a man to operate in masculine energy, just as it's natural for a woman to operate in feminine energy, but we have been conditioned to switch roles. That is by design, that is intentional. Now let me put these glasses
dropping
back
the
on.
mic there.
Let me, yeah.
So we are talking about, are you the reason for your breakup? And this kind of spawned from the He Said, She Said group. Look for the bumblebee colors. If you're on Facebook, you'll see those colors, and that's how the group looks. So look for that group and join the group and join these conversations and add to it if you like, topics of discussion that you'd like to discuss. So I know one thing that I didn't realize to the second phase of my healing, when you say, because I try now to only speak. I don't even think about his what part he had in it, because it's really not my. I don't even feel it's my business anymore. I don't really care. I mean, it's not. I'm on healing myself to have better future relationships. Well, even my relationship with him healed when I worked. I will say though, and as I worked on myself, even in our co-parenting situation, it became better when I understood where he was coming from more. But it really does feel like sometimes that it absolves them of everything. I do think some people feel that way, that it absolves the other person. And I'd like to hear another reason, because I can't think for everyone.
So check this out, though. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because a lot of times women think that. So it looks absolves the man from being accountable for his own actions. That's because men don't display their accountability the same way women do. When you all feel like you've done something wrong and you're accountable, you start to talk about it. When a man feels like he has done something wrong and he needs to be held accountable, or he is responsible for something, he goes extremely inward and starts to slowly try to change the action if he can figure out how. Right. Because sometimes you know you were wrong, but you don't know how to change what you're doing wrong. Because what you did made sense initially. I had somebody who I spoke with this week, and these are sometimes my clients watch the show. So I had somebody who I spoke with this week who said he's doing so much better, but it takes him 2 to 3 months to change the action.
See, that's something I would have said.
And I said, that's because it took him 2 to 3 months to figure out what needs to be changed. But during the 2 to 3 months, I guarantee you he was thinking about it.
That's one reason I felt like I should get divorced, is because I felt like we would discuss the problem, it would get better for it. And like, I know I'm going to totally talk as if I'm coming from an unhealed place, but that's the only way I can talk about it from how I used to be, that I would feel like, and he go back to the same behavior. So was I going to spend my whole life with him only doing what I needed or wanted him to do for a little while, and he go back to the same behavior? And
if you were my client at the time, what I would have asked you is, why does what in your past is the behavior triggering, and why is it triggering that?
I understand that now. So Toussaint said, America and capitalism has succeeded in reverse engineering human frequencies, because when you operate in opposition of nature, you rarely find peace. Without peace, you try and purchase happiness. And there's definitely money to be made in trying to purchase happiness. Oprah has made a whole nice living teaching us how to purchase happiness. Deepak Chopra,
a whole bunch of preachers have made a big living about trying to get people to purchase happiness.
Yeah, I like that Toussaint. That is truly what happens a lot of times. In fact, I would say that that's one reason why I got divorced, is that quest to be happy, that I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life not being happy. Now, I don't come back and tell me because it starts with you. I know all that stuff now.
Right,
I'm just talking about.
right.
I know where the happiness has to begin and end. I'm just speaking from where I was at that time, and I really did feel like that I wanted to be happy, and I'm not going to be with. And I still, and that's the part I brought to the next relationship. Is that quest that
for happiness
that
you couldn't
and
find.
If you're not going to give me this or bring me this, or and I know no one can make me happy. I'm not asking for anybody to give me the tips on what I'm saying. I'm just saying how I felt.
This is how she was thinking.
This is how I was thinking, is that if this isn't happy, I should leave. If this isn't making me happy, I should go.
Yes. And most people who leave relationships leave for that reason. Here is something that is plastered in my client's mindset. If you are not happy within, you will make the mistake of believing that you can be happy without.
And I think we sometimes don't truly know or recognize or really go deep enough to realize we're not happy within.
Right. That's the reason that we asked the question in a Facebook group. Most of us feel like it is someone else's responsibility to make us happy, or happiness comes externally. And if you guys know I'm a preacher, so I'm gonna go biblically. The Bible actually says, "I think myself happy."
I think myself happy. Oh, I guess that makes sense to me. I think. Explain that.
My thought process determines my happiness. My system of thought. We all have a system of thought that we have used to cope with either the great childhood we had or the traumatic childhood we had. We develop what's called a system of thought. And that system of thought will determine whether you experience joy or not. Because I'll give you an example. The job that you might be crying about that you hate, an unemployed person might be praying for that job. It's just a matter of perspective for most of us. The man you walking away from talking about ain't no good, another woman is praying for that exact same type of man. It's about experiences and perspective and paradigms. The thought process that you have will determine whether you are happy or not. There is nothing another person can do to make you experience joy. Nothing.
But to realize, do you even know what makes you happy? Because I think I a lot of times felt like your actions are the reason why I'm not happy. It's not me. It's you.
Right.
What you're doing now does not make me happy. And I don't like what you're doing. So therefore, you're the cause. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But if I went through there and go back to those comments on he said, she said, I'm thinking that a lot of them, it does boil down to that.
Yeah. I think we got an interrupted broadcast.
And what I did for you guys who are saying, if you're viewing, I have attached the link on Facebook. So I have attached the YouTube link. You can view it and the link is there. So just click on that and watch it from YouTube. It's already in the comments. The YouTube link is in the comments of the Facebook feed. So if you're viewing it and having any issues with Facebook, it's going to be fine on YouTube. And I have posted that link. So just go over there and watch it on YouTube. But come back and, you know what? If you comment on YouTube, I can read the comments from YouTube as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So if that's a problem, do that. So bringing the next thing, are you the reason for your breakup? I think you would have to give somebody tools on how to recognize as them, or how do you start to look within to the reason for your breakup and not look at the other person? Where do you start with that?
So there's an entire paradigm shift that needs to be made. And the paradigm shift that needs to be made is basically, it's physics as well. Every action has a reaction. Most of us are commenting on the reaction, but fail to identify the action. So, for example.
Yeah, I need an example.
So I'm not going to talk about cheating, because let's take, because that's the one we all go to. What about if you've been cheated on? Okay, that we can all go. We can all say that one. Let's go with. I'm gonna speak from a male's perspective. My wife is complaining a lot. My wife is complaining. So we're trying to fix the broadcast, everybody.
I'm not going to be able to fix the Facebook one. So what I need you to do is go watch it on YouTube. The link is there, so you don't have to go anywhere to do it. Just click on the YouTube link there and watch the show from there. Because I don't know how to.
Yeah. We're on it.
I'm on air and I can't, and I let the engineer go for the day. So I'm also the engineer for my own show. And so I can't go pause it. So I'm going to ask the people viewing from YouTube, Facebook, if you're having problems on Facebook, watch it from that YouTube link. It's right there in the comments. From the YouTube link in the comments. I'm writing that now.
There we go. I'm trying to copy the comment.
So
you know what? Do me a favor. Go and post the YouTube link in the actual group, because I can't get it from the comment.
Go post, and I'm sorry, I should
have
need to be quiet, you guys. You're tuned in to He Said, She Said on IntellectualRadio.com, and we're talking about are you the reason for your breakup? And I know many people will say they are not. I just feel it in my bones that many people will say. And you guys, you can go watch it on YouTube. The link is there. I'm about to post that in the He Said, She Said group. So you can go vote. But do you feel like you're the reason for your breakup? And I know I definitely would have given you a whole slew of reasons why he was the reason. I'm having problems commenting in the group. So add a description. So that's would you say that you're the reason for your breakup? I'd like to hear from people if they feel that way.
Are you the
reason for your breakup? And then if you don't feel like you're the reason for your breakup, and I think how we're wording this, most people are going to say no. But if you don't feel like you're the reason for your breakup and you're currently in a relationship, I'd like to hear if you're having any of the same issues. If you are currently in a relationship, are you experiencing any of the issues you had in your past relationship? I like to hear from people if they don't mind sharing, because but if you are or are not, I'd like to hear from you. I'm not sure if I posted that in the He Said, She Said group, because me and Facebook are not. We're not friends right now. We're not working out today.
Trust me, I understand.
I'm about to put it in your comments. In your comment about this topic. I do everything. Is there anybody else who does everything from their phone? I mean, I do everything from my phone. So trying to do this on the laptop, I don't even know how to share things on Facebook. I don't even know. I think I'm doing it correctly. So I just put the YouTube link in the comments of James that says he can't wait for the show. And so Valencia said, and I think Valencia will be okay with me reading her comment. She said, I left.
She said, I left. That's it. That's all. Bye.
I left. So I'm not even going. So, and then
I ain't mad at her though.
Sadia said, I wasn't honest about how important a role money played in my life.
That's huge.
And I don't think we're not honest with our own selves. I mean, I hadn't even thought about how I felt about some of those things or where it started. Because for me, took, because I felt I was right. I mean, come on now. I just felt like, so to go back and figure out, well, where did I start this thought process from? Where did it begin? When did I start thinking this way? And so a lot of times it will take a little bit, a little bit of, you have to put some thought into it
Yeah.
sometimes, and it doesn't take long, but just being willing to ask yourself the question. Just be willing to ask yourself these questions and answer this. Because if you feel like, oh, he wouldn't get a job, he wouldn't work, he wouldn't help take care of the kids, that I want to go back to, does that, for women, we want you to take your part of the as women, we want you to take some accountability for what you did, and we don't feel like men would do that.
You know what's funny? Men feel the exact same way. If you ask
Oh, yeah,
100 men, 99.999 of them would say women don't take accountability for their actions. What we have to realize is we just take accountability differently.
Oh, that's a good, explain what's different about it. That's a good
You
way.
all will verbalize your accountability if you take it. Have to look at the camera. If you take it, you all will verbalize it. Men will take accountability and not say anything. We just start working on changing the action. And like, again, as I shared with you, I told a client of mine recently told me it took him 2 months to do something different. What I really wanted to say is it took you 2 months to recognize he was doing something different. Because oftentimes what looks like let me give it an example. I've lost 60 pounds. Nobody recognized when I lost 10. Nobody recognized when I lost 15. When I got to about 30, then people said something's different. I don't know what. When I got to 60, then they recognized, okay, he's lost some weight. So when men start to change their actions as opposed to verbalizing the change of their actions, it's not noticed initially because it takes consistently doing something different before the next person realizes something changed and I don't really know what it is.
And usually we can't wait it out, though. I think we have very short attention spans to wait it out.
And when that happens, that's because you're not in love.
And then I also think some people just aren't consistent as well. I mean, I think it's twofold. It is hard, especially when you're in a habit of doing something some way. You can try for a while, just like breaking any diet. If you're on a diet and then you cheat here and there and you let that person see that you cheated on the diet, then they don't trust it. You know what I mean? And I think I'm using that as an example.
No, that's a good example. And so that's when we get into the definition of love. Because love, the first tenet or the first characteristic of love is patience with kindness. Recognizing that for a person, for an action or a habit to change, there will be setbacks. And so I think we don't go into relationships with realistic expectations, first of all.
You know what? I'm going to, we got to keep talking me. Keep talking about that. I am going to work on the live. But I can't take
but I'm gonna go ahead and talk.
My IntellectualRadio.com and
they
YouTube people.
We
are going to keep talking, so I'm going to. We need to keep talking for that. The people who listen.
So let me talk to the people watching me on my group. So listen. I'm gonna talk. Let me talk to everybody. But so listen. Check this out. What is though is for men when they recognize they have done something wrong. A true man who is taking accountability for his action, what he will begin to do, he oftentimes will not say to you, baby, look, I made a mistake. I know that's what you want us to say. And I know that's what we should be trained to say. But that is oftentimes not what will happen. So what he will often do is first beat himself up. It's just a natural order of how men operate. We will first get down on ourselves, and we have to pull ourselves out of that. That is when he has gone quiet. When you see him going quiet is because he's injured. Most of the time he's injured because of what he's thinking about himself. Number one. Number two, he then needs to decide, what do I need to do different? And for many of us, that in and of itself is a process. When a woman has decided she's done something wrong and she's going to do something different, you all almost always talk out loud what you're thinking about doing differently. And so the conversations that you're having out loud, we're having internally. And so the change starts to happen slowly, which is why when a man changes an action for real, his change for good. Because when he finally makes a decision to never do something again, he will not do. I'll give you a prime example. My father used to smoke 2-3 packages of cigarettes a day. My mother died of cancer. And on her deathbed, one day he was rubbing her hair on her deathbed, and he decided he needed to go out for a smoke to relieve himself of the pressure. He went out for a smoke. He didn't smoke in the hospital. He came back in and she could smell the cigarette smoke on his breath. And she said to him, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself because you see what smoking is doing to me and you dare continue to smoke." That day, my dad decided I will never smoke another cigarette again. And that day he never picked up a cigarette again. Never. So when a man has made a decision that this action to change, the action absolutely changes. He didn't say to my mother, "I'll never smoke again." He didn't say to his kids, "I'll never smoke again." We just happened to notice Dad ain't had a cigarette in a long time.
So, and you're saying, explain that. And there is a new live feed. If
There's a new live
anybody
feed. We're
who
gonna
was
switch
on the
over.
old one, you can, if you want to leave that up just in case. But there is a new live feed for the people who were looking for it. So if you didn't go to YouTube, there is a new live feed started. So, and I'll go over and check and see if there are any comments over on YouTube. So, and I don't see any. Let me refresh.
Okay.
So it was the action. Explain.
So men
that
change
from
actions.
They change their actions.
When a man realizes he's done something wrong, he will change his actions. What we are bad at doing is communicating that we realize we screwed up.
And I'm going to say that I did realize that, or I knew that about my ex-husband, is that he would never say I screwed up. I could just tell by the change of his action. I guess that I recognize that now. I don't necessarily get a whole apology, but the behavior changes.
Right.
So, and that's all we want, I think, in the end. But I do think some people do want you to say it. But at the same time,
oh my God, most people. I've watched marriages end because they didn't understand how the other person naturally operates. Like what you're looking for him to do is something your girlfriend would do. And a lot of times, feminine women want men to interact with them the same way their girlfriends would. And men want women to interact with them the same way their guys would, their homies would do. And it just doesn't work this way. So I am on a quest. To inform people about normal order of masculinity and normal order of femininity. That's the reason we do a show. He said, she said. That's the reason we come in and do this show. What is the thought process from the masculine point of view? What is the thought process from the feminine point of view? And if we really understood how we were naturally designed or created to operate, a lot of the expectations dissipate. A lot of the arguments would dissipate. Jocelyn on my feed said, "We wish men communicated like us." I can't tell you how many people say that. That is absolutely true.
And we consider you not being a good communicator if you're not communicating like us. We're actually sometimes, or at least I know I was, if you didn't communicate the way I expected you to communicate, you are not a good communicator.
And so this is where we have to go from more than one track to multiple tracks, because there is multiple forms of communication.
And for me, I've noticed that my ex is having some of the same, and it's not because I've talked to her or fed to her. I don't talk to my children but I'll listen to her complain about things with her dad, and I realize I need to teach her how to understand how her father communicates.
How men communicate. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a conversation I had with my son recently. My son got a girlfriend, and he probably gonna kill me for saying this on air, but that's
I know, that's why I realized.
So, but one of the things I told him is I said, "Young man, listen to me very carefully. Your girlfriend is going to try to change you. It's just how it operates. She's going to want you to be a different version of yourself. And if you, and now I'm gonna say this the way my brother used to say, if you shall so happen to acquiesce and change, she will then no longer be attracted to you."
What?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. You all want men to communicate like women until men communicate like women.
And then it's awfully girly.
And the attraction begins to dissipate.
And then it's awfully feminine. And I know some people won't agree. And I'm not speaking for all.
Oh man.
But if you did sit and talk to me, yes, I created a new one.
So I said women want girlfriends but need men.
They want girlfriends
but need men.
but need men. And I would add that one of my issues, that's a very good point, because I also had one of the issues that actually came up in my past relationship is that I wanted girlfriends, and because I had them, I put very little stock into my man. I mean, I had girlfriends to talk to, so
Mm.
I didn't nurture that part of the relationship with him because I didn't need him for that.
See, and so I've got a buddy said, no, it's not so black and white. Men shut down or get too feminine. See, listen, what
That's
you're
the same
what
thing,
you're
right?
calling feminine is him expressing how he feels. When a man expresses how he feels, it is perceived as feminine, which is why most men don't express how they feel. So listen, let me say this. Men don't stop communicating to punish you. Men naturally, when something is stressful or something happens that we don't understand, we naturally think deeply inwards. So what you process with your brain power naturally in one day might take a man 1 month to process. That's just, go look it up. That's biological, biblical. What you process in a day and get through might take a man a month to do.
Well, I think what became hard for me is that social media wasn't quite around, but I think this could still play a part. That it seems like everybody else is communicating better, or and you compare how it looks like
Mhm.
someone else's relationship could be, and they're talking, and he
Yeah.
talks to her, and he tells her everything,
The
and you're
grass
not doing.
always look greener. It always
And
does.
you think it's a choice that you don't love much if you don't communicate with me like this.
Hmm.
That's a representation of your love for me if you're not talking.
So let me translate that. You don't love me as much if you don't become the version of you that I had in you, that I had about you in my head. And so what ends up happening is oftentimes the one who says you don't love me enough becomes Tucson, you silly,
What
becomes
did
the
he
one
say?
not giving the love. Tucson said those guys are gay.
That had the men at it, and they
that
do,
I,
and,
that
and
I,
but he's right in the sense that sometimes I'll look at it and I go, oh my gosh, he is really. I mean, it. You say you want it till you see it,
till you see
and
it.
then you go, okay, I don't want a man like
That's
that.
why I told my son, whatever you do, be you. Do not change who you are. Listen, make adjustments based on what you heard, but do not change who you are, because who you are is who attracted her.
And I think you said that so correctly. Like that's what you think you want until you actually have it. But we have this fairy tale version of what we think
Hmm.
relationships should be like. And
And it just isn't. So on my feed, I would like men to be emotionally available when a woman needs them to be. What I hear you saying, Sarah, is you would like a man to be emotionally available the way you need him to be, because men are emotionally available.
what does that look like from a
Right. What
man's
does that
perspective? What
look
does a
like to
male
you,
avail?
Sarah?
Yes. Well, answer that, Sarah, because I don't know if I could even answer that because I don't know any man that's really emotional.
We
Or
are
I
emotional. We're
don't
he emotional.
recognize it. I don't recognize what it looks like for a man. I don't know what it looks like because I in my head I haven't seen a man do it, so
So
I'm not
let
sure
me
what it
let me
looks
let
like.
me let me say this. Let me dispel this myth. And listen, look it up. I will debate anybody on this. Men are way more emotional than women. Way more. Way more emotional than women.
I think
And
any
I'm not
woman would
talking about gay men. I'm talking about masculine men are way more emotional than women.
prove it. I don't believe you.
We listen.
I don't believe
Oh,
you.
okay. Not being funny, but think about the popularity of the metrosexual. In my home, my father always told my sister, never pick, and I gotta read the comment. Never pick a man that thinks he is as cute as you.
Well, my daddy used to say that too. Oh, my daddy was. Oh my goodness,
So
yes.
listen, thank you, Two. Two agrees men are way more emotional than women. That's why we go to war. We fight wars over hurt feelings. Just look at our president. You said, what? Rocket Man, I'm going to do that. Come on. We are way more emotional. He is just.
But what does it look like? Fighting?
All right.
It goes out to
I'll
fight?
tell you what emotion looks like. For some men, it becomes violent. And I'm not talking about most men, but for other men, when a man is hurt, he goes quiet. Because you guys think it looks to you like punishment or shutting down, because it does not manifest itself the way when you're hurt, you start talking. When you're done, you go quiet. When a woman's done, she goes quiet. So when a man goes quiet, it looks as though he's done. But it is the exact same thing as when you start talking. When a woman doesn't like something, she starts talking. So I actually teach my clients, when your wife is speaking, thank the Lord. When she stops speaking, you are in trouble. If she ever stops talking, she has becoming indifferent. She's done with you. But if she's ever talking, you can fix the problem, whatever the problem is. But you all think when your man is not talking, he's done. And that's not true. When he stops talking, he's thinking.
And we also think that when we're talking and you're not listening, you don't care.
So when
it feels like you're not paying attention or listening.
When you're talking, and say that one more time.
When we're talking, because you said, that's when it's good when she's talking, but sometimes it looks like they're not even listening or paying any attention or even care that we're talking, or like, shut up, and you just keep talking. So it feels like then you don't even care. You're not listening or listen.
So when you're talking and your man's not saying anything, what he often
actually hears.
He hears you and is processing. When a man, if you're talking and your man starts talking with you, that's when he's not listening. That's when he's not listening. If you're talking and then he comes back with a da 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 da, but I thought that, and you start going, but I thought, he's really not listening. When you're talking and a man is truly paying attention, he's like this. He's deeply processing the information to make a change. But if he's talking and you're talking, no change is going to happen. Guarantee it. Prove me. Go take a look. Go in your relationships and watch you start talking and your man start responding and see if a change happens. When you're talking and he's talking, no change is going to take place. But when you're talking and he is in deep thought, he is literally taking in the information that you are saying, mapping it to where it needs to go, and deciding on a change in behavior. There is a humongous difference between masculine operation and feminine operation. What I have one of these days I'm going to actually bring it here. I have a research and study that shows that women use their brain, their communication sector of their brain, almost 70 times more than a man does. Like, not factored by 1, but factored by 70. That's insane. Tucson said, I argue better on paper than in person because I process the thought. I can never contend with. Right. No, let me tell you something. I have watched attorneys, men who get paid to litigate and argue, be no match for a woman who doesn't even have a degree. We cannot verbally jab with you. We cannot spar with you verbally because you think too fast on your feet.
And I it's funny Tucson says that, because my ex and I, when I say I used to feel, I'll just for the sake of discussion, I'll just say I always felt like he didn't communicate, or didn't communicate. I do understand how he does now, but let's just say he doesn't communicate. But we could text. We would be in the same house and text, and that's the only way he would really say something to me. Is through text. And it's funny Tucson said that, because that's why I turn it the opposite sideways. Turn that sideways and push it in there. And so that's it's funny, but that's exactly how that texting. And I think that's really one reason why I actually prefer to text, because I can actually put my thoughts. I'm not one of those that thinks. I do think fast, but sometimes not that fast. So that's interesting. So, but for women, why a lot of times I feel like even on this show, you'll explain to women how men think, but don't explain to men how women think. Did I
Okay,
say
so
that
let me,
right?
yeah,
Right?
yeah, you did. So let me say
Okay.
it. Let me go to the opposite now. For men, when your woman is talking, we consider it nagging, but she's not. That is her thinking through whatever it is that's going on. Women think verbally. They think verbally. So what we think is nagging is actually data that you need to help your relationship grow. If you look at her mouth, if you look at her words, the words that are coming out of her mouth as data that you need to help the relationship grow, you want her to talk. But again, most of us aren't listening, so we are sparring with you. That's why I say if a man starts talking back, just know that the information is not being thoroughly processed.
So one thing,
Tucson said, nah, some of that's nagging. That is how you are perceiving it as nagging.
and it's always going to seem as nagging if you feel it's nagging.
But here's what you got to remember. What she starts off with is almost always not the issue because she's still thinking through the issue verbally. Women think with words. So she might say, you didn't cut the grass and you promised you was going to cut the grass. And I guarantee you the grass cutting is not the issue.
But I will say that, and I want to piggyback off of what you're saying because I've had to train myself to do this. To not start with the grass being cut, to really think to myself, what is the real issue and start there.
Where you get that from?
James Borishade.
Because most women start with, you said you was gonna cut the grass and the grass is not cut.
And I'm really frustrated because you didn't, because of how I feel about something else that happened.
Right.
But I've let it all build up in me, and now the grass cutting is like the thing that broke, and it has nothing really to do with my core what's wrong. So learning how to communicate with a man myself too is to come back and then I say it once.
Mm-hmm.
And I say what I say my piece and be done with it.
And be done. And here's what happens. When you all get to the point where you're frustrated, the grass is not cut. You said you was going to cut the grass. What most men do, here's the mistake we make. I made it in darn near every relationship I've ever been in until I started really learning this thing. We respond to the accusation that the grass wasn't cut.
And then I can never please you. Oh my goodness, you never happy. I'm out here cutting the grass, and you mad because I'm cutting the grass. And then we're frustrated because we're actually not even. And now we're trying to get in our real point. It's not even about the grass. It's because last week you did this.
Right.
Because now we want to try to make you hear what we're really mad about. Because now I got your attention.
Right. Exactly. Now that you have our attention. Here's what my boy Algernoy said. If you follow what's initially said, you'll be chasing a moving target. That is absolutely positively true. You'll be chasing a moving target. Like, wait a minute. Okay, she mad that the grass not cut. Fine, I'll go cut the grass right now. I'm gonna stop everything I was doing for you, and I'm gonna go cut the grass now. You come back and cut the grass, and she's more angry than she was when the grass wasn't cut. And now that's when you start to say, you ain't never happy. I could never please you because you responded out of masculine energy instead of pausing and understanding what the feminine is doing. The feminine is thinking through what is really upsetting her. And half of the time, I have learned that when my clients walk in the room and sit down, they don't even know what's wrong. She don't even know what's wrong. So she might say, we might start with, he don't ever cut the grass. And we realize I miss him. And he promised to spend time with me. And we haven't spend any time together. So the failure to cut the grass is just another broken promise. And the broken promise that she's really looking for is the time being spent together.
And I do think sometimes to start with the not spending time, choosing our choice of words and also really getting to the root of what we're upset about and being okay with being vulnerable about it. Because now it's a vulnerability to say, I want to spend more time with you. I know you work hard and I know you have to work into the family. And I appreciate everything you're doing for the family because it does seem hard to be like, I want you to spend more time. And he's working 12 hours just to put food on the table. And I mean, it sounds like you really putting some pressure. So acknowledging, but being really honest with yourself and being okay to be vulnerable because sometimes now I really have to tell myself he loves me.
So Tu just said something. He said, listen, if we operated in our natural energies, would any of this be a problem? And he said, radical honesty cures this all. So I would add to that, the answer to that question is if we operated in our natural polarities, will this be cured? No, not
No,
all the
not
way.
for me, because
Here's-
my initial is to snap and starts.
No. He's talking about your
For me.
natural feminine energy. Will it be cured? And he was operating in his natural masculine. It wouldn't be cured. Not unless both parties understood the other's natural. So if she operated in her feminine and operated in my masculine, but I don't understand what her feminine looks like, and she doesn't understand what my masculine looks like, then no, there's no
And
cure.
I also don't understand. I'm not operating in my feminine energy.
Right.
So I actually think I'm feminine, period. So whatever I say comes out as feminine energy. I don't think we even recognize when we're operating out of masculine energy to not do it.
Right. So not saying anything would be the masculine energy.
And it's impossible for me to do that. So
Right.
I operate out of my natural energy. I cannot be quiet.
So one of my boys said, it takes a series of questions to unpack the real issue. That is true.
But we should do that internally. I think some women need to not always start off, because I can have a whole long dialogue that he does not want to have. He does not want to sit with me and debate this out.
No, we don't want. Listen. let me. So Jocelyn said, I think that's that's it right there. The vulnerable part. Men sometimes won't allow themselves to be vulnerable,
and women don't either.
Men don't want to debate. Because what you're asking a male to do when you ask him to do that is to enter into this vulnerable space on your terms, in your world, in your energy. And for men who have done that in the past, the one thing we don't want to do is make the same mistake type. What we learn is this doesn't work. I will never be able to verbally spar with her in her energy. And
that's very frustrating.
That is extremely frustrating. What we will do, however, is hear you if we don't feel attacked. And I'm not saying you attack. That's just saying we don't feel attacked. Because oftentimes the way a person was raised in their childhood, anything can make them feel that they are being attacked. And so then the next layer to this is understanding the upbringing of your mate so that you can understand what triggers what.
I like that. And then the Chris brought up, he said that different is not deficient. And I think that's for women.
Bingo.
That's the biggest part of what for women and men to understand, because a lot of times I'll even hear men say you should think more, even that whole premise of thinking like a man and thinking like, but just that we are going to be different, period. Period. But it's not lacking, because I used to think he didn't communicate. He's not a communicator because he didn't talk.
Now check this out. She said men always allow themselves to be vulnerable if they love you.
And I don't know. I can't speak for men, so I'm going to just believe that.
Yes, men do allow themselves to be vulnerable if they love you, but vulnerability, you have to understand what vulnerability looks like to a male. And then Algernoy said you have to first see their worldview and then respond and correct the person from where they are sitting. I'm gonna unpack that comment a little bit. I agree that you first have to see their worldview and then respond and correct the person from where they are sitting.
Correct the person?
Yes, that's what you caught what I call. See, you've been on this journey, Wanda. So it is the thought that a person needs correcting that brings in the issues in the relationship. You have to first understand a person's worldview. Agree. But that journey of understanding a person's worldview might be a lifetime journey. And so what I teach my clients in our relationship coaching is what you're in the relationship together to do is to understand the other person's paradigm. That does not mean that their paradigm needs correcting.
It doesn't mean that it should look like what you feel it should look like.
Exactly, because what you're trying to do, here's what we don't understand in the process of correcting a person. What we're trying to do is not bring you to what's right. We're trying to bring you to my worldview, because your worldview might not be right. We might not, just because we don't share the same worldview doesn't mean mine is wrong and yours is right.
It may just be different.
It may just be different.
And then
I might see a 6, you might see a 9.
But being with the person that learning how that person views it helps you communicate with them better, because then you know where they're coming from. You know.
So Algernoy said, pardon that. By correction, I mean show them how to get what they want from you.
Oh, okay.
Now I agree
with
that.
Help them learn you.
Help them learn you. Yeah, I agree.
Learn more about you. And that should be all in the dating phase. I think sometimes we leave out some of the things that should be the process of learning someone, especially if you're looking at going further with them in a long-term relationship, is
Mhm.
really learning their character, who they are.
Right, right.
And once you learn that, then you don't have to go back to all the negative thoughts of what the last person used to be like, because they won't be anything like the last person, because they are who they are.
So let me just share this. For all of the people watching, if you ever want to understand the male, men love to be free, to be who they are. And I've heard women say that they love that too, but I don't find that to necessarily be as true as it is for men.
You don't find what to be true. Say
That
it again.
women love to be who they are, to be allowed to be who they are. I'm telling you now, if you watch men move in their circle of friends with men, there's no judgment.
I think women are okay not being allowed to be who they are.
Bingo, they are. You all are, and men are not. And so what happens in a relationship is oftentimes the feminine, because the feminine is ever moving and ever changing, she's trying to draw him into the changing world that she lives in.
And I think I actually changed because I was flowing.
Right.
I flowed into being how I am now, which then me not just adjusting because he fit everything that I felt I needed a husband to be. He fit that the fantasy of what the kind of person I was looking at. So I was okay if I didn't laugh, or if I didn't this, or if I didn't this, or because he was what it looked, he was what fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I flowed,
he didn't fit anymore.
He didn't fit anymore.
Uh-huh.
So,
which meant that wasn't love, that was need. Because to love something is to nurture it in its natural essence, not to change it into something else that it needs to be, that you need it to be. It is to love it in its natural essence, to be vulnerable enough to allow it to be vulnerable enough.
And I think a lot of times when you're coming out of a relationship, or you're coming from a relationship that you did certain things with, you feel you need the opposite.
Say more about that.
So when I was operating out of need, I'm thinking I very much did, because I was in the relationship before that. He didn't do this, he didn't do this. So once I found somebody who did all the opposite things, that's what I needed. And so I definitely went with what I felt I needed.
And that is quite literally the definition of a transactional relationship versus a transformational relationship. Listen, God put people here to be transformational, not transactional. We have turned the paradigm into transactional versus transformational. What I mean by that is every one of us is ever evolving. We're supposed to be growing and maturing into who we were created to be. And so the relationship you're in is supposed to nurture your evolution into who you were called to be, not who I need you to be for me. And we get into relationships to condition the other person to be who I need you to be for me. And what ends up happening is you start to morph or mold into who I need you to be for me. And then something doesn't feel right because it's not who you were called to be. It's not who you were evolving to become. So the true essence of real relationship and real love is the freedom to evolve into who you were born to be, who you were called to be. That is transformational relationship. Transactional relationship is you give me this, I give you that. You do this for me, I do that for you. If you don't do this for me, I walk away. That is not love at all. And most people stand in the doorway taking score.
Well, and I hear that all the time. I see that on Facebook, and I have to continuously battle myself to not keep score. That if you didn't do this, well, I'm not going to do this for you. Because if you don't do this for me, why should I do this for you? And then I even went back to and started thinking about lately, even the relationship I have with my children, that I have taught them to actually be transactional. Because if you don't do this, then I'm not going to do this for you. So I thought about, wow, I actually teach that same almost mentality even to my children. And how do you work out of that being so transactional that things have to be that tit for tat.
Yeah. So let me give you an example of how this plays out in my family and my life now. I mean, and it was hard. I grew up in a house where transactional relationships were normal. And we were molded to fit in a box in the house. You know what I mean? And for financial reasons, we were being molded to fit in a box. So being who you are was very tough initially. I'll give you an example of how that played out. So we cooked one meal. And I don't care what you like, whether you like to eat this meal or not, whether the meal makes you throw up or not, that's your meal for the day.
Hey, that's how most of our families were.
That's actually a little bit traumatic. So in my home now, so I remember friends coming over and saying, why do you have 3 different variations of the meal in your house? And I said, well, because one kid does not eat this. The other kid loves that. This kid can't stay, is neutral. So we make 3 different variations of the meal so that you can be free to be you in your home. If you're not free to be you in your own house, where are you free to be you? And what I don't want to do is train my children to be somebody else or train my children to be what I need you to be.
But sometimes you don't have the income to be free to be you. I mean, I don't. If you don't have money,
it doesn't take a lot of income to make different
or time even.
So that now that's another scenario. If you don't have that, we make time for what's important to us. Yeah. If I got time to watch the game, then I got time to make a different variations of the meal.
Well, what I think I that's interesting. No, I was the type of mother you're gonna eat what I have. No, I'll try to vary, but I'll try to leave things that you do like in the house. So it's up to you. If this is not what you're gonna eat, then it's something in here.
Right.
Find what you want.
So I'm gonna give you an example of that. Now in my home, my daughter doesn't eat meat. The only meat she will allow herself to eat is fish. Okay. She's switching from carnivore to pescatarian to eventually vegetarian and maybe vegan.
Okay.
My son, on the other hand,
and you make 3 meals,
eats meat.
Okay.
So what I'll do is they all like rice, for example. So I may make rice, and I might do a smoked salmon for Jasmine, but I'll do chicken for Joshua in the air fryer or bake the chicken. Josh doesn't like baked chicken anymore unless it's got lemon pepper on it. So I might do lemon pepper chicken for Joshua, smoked salmon. It don't take no extra time.
I'm not doing that.
It don't take no extra time for me.
But I'm not doing that.
And Josh is sick. They're all old enough that they can cook for themselves. But the point
get to the point. Yeah, what's that point?
Because I'm like, I think it's imperative for them to know that it is okay to like what you like, to be who you are, to do what you do in your own house. Society outside is already going to try to condition you to fit in a box. And when my sons were growing up and my daughter was growing up, we used to have this saying. Most people will tell you to think outside the box. And our saying is there is no box. So don't let anybody put a box around you, including your family. All right, let me stop.
That makes sense. I think I just use a different variation. I guess the 2 + 2 and the 1 + 3. That I'm not about to. I don't even like to cook one meal, so let alone 6.
I cook so much. My kids got me a chef hat.
I don't like to cook, so no way you getting your vegetarian, vegan. But I'll lay this stuff all out there for you, you're free to be you.
Let's juxtapose that and say most of us operate from a transactional poverty mindset.
And that would be what I said, that we don't have the money. I mean, that definitely would be a transactional poverty mindset, that I don't have the money to make 4 meals. So I've just been
conditioned to do that. So check this out. My mindset changed. I used to work for Jumpstart for Young Children. I was the executive director of Jumpstart for Young Children. And one day, when we flew into Boston, they told us, we're going to this wealthy man's house. He's one of our donors at Jumpstart. We drove into this house in Cambridge, and when I tell you the house was a castle, the butler got out and took us up the driveway, etc. And we sat down to eat a meal, family style, and there were variations of the same meal. It was whatever you like, you had. It was Mitt Romney's house, and that's when I learned. Wait a minute, now the other side of the railroad tracks, they don't just say you only got peas on the table.
He also had somebody making the food for him.
But I wanted my kids to experience that lifestyle. Like, okay, look, a can of peas is 59 cents. A can of string beans is 59 cents. One of y'all like peas, one of y'all like string beans. I'll make them both. We'll put them on the side and we eat family style. I might like peas and string beans tonight. You see,
I understand
it's the thought process that I needed them to have, and so now they're free. You should see what dinner looks like at our house.
Yeah.
It's quite hilarious.
It has to be. I hope there's another way you can handle that same process. Mine are adult now, so I don't know what they're eating, but I would hope.
Sometimes they say, okay, here's what we're having for dinner. Come in the kitchen and make your variation. You see what I'm saying? So Jasmine might say, you know what, I want some salmon tonight or shrimp. Here's the shrimp. I'll unpack it. I'll help you. We'll season it together. Let's go make it. And Joshua, I can't get him in the kitchen to save my life. So I know I'm gonna air fry his chicken.
Because I know you saying that you'll make time, but if you just you didn't even make it home from work, and you picked up the kids from 3 different schools, you had to get somebody to soccer, one to basketball, and by the time you're done, you get home and they still need to do their homework.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to make 3 different meals.
Trust me when I tell you, Wanda, I had the same thing. I used to check this out. I was a single dad since 2014. I had one studying physics, Japanese, and whatever else. I had the other one playing basketball and entering a brand new school. And then I had another one who literally I used to drive an hour and a half to Lane Tech to take him to school, then an hour and a half back to get him from school, and then I would have to go coach basketball and then come home and
you make
dinner.
the 3. Well, I still feel there's another way to do it. I'm just because it's not me. I get it.
I get it, and it's not most of us.
But I think it's still another way to do it. I think there's always more than one way to skin a cat. I didn't force them to eat. I made sure. What do you like? When we go grocery shopping, tell me what you like. Tell me what you like. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you like, and all of that is there. Yeah. I'm making the one thing, and then you all have nobody's forced to eat this. You can do what you want to do, but you're going to do that on your own. So I think it still works.
Let's bring this back to the conversation we were having about relationships.
Are you the reason? And I want to get to some solid things of, are you the reason for your breakup? How do we explain that so people can really walk away with seeing the difference of what we're saying? Are you the reason you ended your life?
No, my life's on.
Okay. This ended again. Yeah. Are you the reason for your breakup? How to realize if they are not realizing what you're saying with that?
I agree with you. So.
What did he say?
He said, well, preach. I agree with Wanda that in the sense that we all want that, but we won't commit to the work that it takes to get that.
Okay.
Because it was a lot of work, fam. It was a lot of work. And I was tired. Some days after I was done, I would go and sit in my room and just wipe the sweat from my eye. Wipe the sweat from my, because it wasn't tears. Wipe the sweat from my eye. Sorry about shaking the thing. So let me pull us back and answer the question Wanda asked. How do we know or operate from a modality of knowing where we might be the cause of our own breakup? The first and foremost, it takes understanding the trauma that you experienced in your youth to understand where are your touch points, so to speak. If you don't understand that, what we're talking about today is foreign. It's going to be absolutely foreign to you. You're going to always say it's his fault, her fault. If she had if he had if they didn't, if we didn't, if that, you'll never have any culpability in the demise of your relationship, and it will continue to happen in the next relationship. So first and foremost, understanding where you've been hurt, because most of the time, we are responding to stimulus to prior hurt. That's where the word response-able comes from. You are able to respond, and by blaming the other person, you have given up your ability to be responsible for the way you respond. So for example, the question I always ask my clients now is, why did it make you feel that way? I'm going to give you a real live client scenario. And I've used this before. A couple comes to me, sits down on my couch and says, he came home late the other day and He didn't call me. And it when I tell you, it made her so mad. We couldn't figure out why she was so angry until we unpacked what happened in her earlier relationships. Coming home, her previous mate, when he didn't come home, he had cheated on her. And so she associated not coming home with cheating. Now, the new mate not coming home at the expected time meant cheating. And there was nothing he could say to convince her otherwise. And so it took about a week and a half to 2 weeks to unpack that, oh, you have been cheated on before. And this is what you associated with cheating. So anybody who touches that particular wound is going to get the reaction as though they're the person who caused the wound. Does that make sense?
Yes. Tucson said on the YouTube, all relationships are mirrors. The mirrors reflecting your most limiting thought about yourself. We must look at relationships as school and ask, what am I supposed to learn about myself? And anytime, and I do this with any relationship, I'm not just talking about and I do think we all should start. It would be helpful to practice. Anytime I have a reaction, a feeling, an emotion from something someone did, I ask myself that very question: why am I feeling this way? Why am I having this reaction? What does that make me? And then I even sometimes go, I try to think back to the first time I ever had that reaction from it.
Right. That's deeper. That's the next level. Why am I having this reaction to this stimulus? And when you can ask that question, that's where healing starts. Why am I having this reaction to this stimulus? Once you can ask that question, healing starts. That's where it begins.
And I notice it about myself. Sometimes I know it and I still do it now. So because I'm definitely human. I can see the trigger happening and still fall for it every time. I get shot by that same trigger.
We all do. We all do. Oh yeah.
The other day, somebody typed something and I said a trigger warning because I could tell by my angry response or my hypeness to be just typing a response that I knew, that touched a trigger and I had to take a moment.
Knowing's only half the battle. Because, man, listen, when my marriage ended in 2014, I was devastated. And so I studied everything on the subject of love and relationships. And that's when I realized, oh dear, here's some of the stuff I did. And then I got into a couple of smaller relationships after that. But then I got into a long-term relationship and was engaged again. But what I thought I had healed.
That is so true.
What I thought I had healed, I had buried. And I didn't realize I wasn't healed because I never asked myself, why does this stimulus cause me to feel this way?
Because you think that way you feel is right. Period. I mean, you really feel like I should feel happy and you should be doing these things. And you just really to your core feel like you're right. And that thing of that and to ask yourself why, because new relationships still bring out it's stuff you didn't even notice.
You didn't notice.
So you may think you worked on it.
If you have the tools, you recognize that the relationship is a mirror. First of all, me and Tu don't agree on a lot of stuff all the time. Most realest, truest things he's ever said is relationships are mirrors. They literally reflect to you. That is biblical. The word that when God said he's going to create a woman, the Hebrew terminology was, I'm going to create somebody who reflects you, basically. So relationships are mirrors. The best relationships. Now you got to hear me on this, and I don't send me no emails or text messages. But what I'm about to say is again biblical. The best relationships bring out pain, and here's why. Because it begins to reflect to you areas that you need to be healed. And what most of us do when it begins to do that is that we run like crazy.
Because we don't feel like people that love you cause you pain or should.
And what the truth of the matter is, they oftentimes aren't causing pain. They're exposing past pain. And so they are misunderstood as the one who caused it. They are. So my ex used to say, "You knocking over my boxes."
What does that mean?
Things that I put up in the box that I don't want to deal with, you're knocking them over. And now I have to deal with it. That's what tends to kill relationships to people who are not in a place to heal yet. But to those of us who are ready to do this work, who have done this work or ready to do this work, when that type of experience takes place, the question to ask is, number one, the two questions, why did this stimulus make me feel this way? And number two, where did I first feel this? Because where you first felt this is where you create coping mechanisms to deal with it. And the coping mechanisms you created to deal with them, check this out. Most of us create our coping mechanisms before we're 5 years old. So your 5-year-old brain is the one that is your 5-year-old system of coping is the system you're using at 45. And if you don't ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And where did I first feel this? You'll never recreate, you'll never be reborn. This is why biblically the Bible says you must be born again. To be born again means you must create a new system of thought. You must. In order to create a new system of thought, you have to let go of the old one. And a relationship that is truly sent by God is helping you let go of the old system of thought.
I want to add one thing that I'll say. Her name is Kim Plesh, and I have to give some kudos to her as well. She's she helps with emotional clearing, helping you find the emotional blockages from back.
Shout out to Kim.
And she said a lot of times people need to feel that, give that person love, feed your inner self, that 5-year-old. You have to feed that 5-year-old love and say you did the best you could at that age.
Right.
You did what you that you have to totally start sending that inner self, that inner person that was hurt, that love.
Inside of every angry 45-year-old person is a 5-year-old hurt kid. And we use coping. Anger is the coping mechanism we have developed to shield the 5-year-old from the trauma.
And it could be any age. I mean, it could be the 19-year-old when my parents divorced. And it could be any age that this trauma happens.
The story you told yourself.
The story you tell yourself. And to even recognize that would be the story that I told even when I think back of what I even said to him on first meeting him. So the very story my pain would come from.
Yeah. So let me expose some. So check this out. First of all, Tucson is a period. The pain is the lesson. It's like the working out. If there is no pain, there is no gain. That's absolutely true. But I'm gonna share some stuff with you all from my personal background. Growing up, again, I grew up with Nigerian parents, African parents. My dad worked really hard to provide for us, and my mother worked as well. And so my parents they're from Nigeria. Education was the most important thing to them. And so they saw sports as nonsense. They didn't come. I played basketball, football, and baseball. I was great at baseball. I was average at football, but basketball was the one I loved. So I worked the hardest at it. But I've won 4 baseball championships, like 2 basketball championships, and like 1 football championship. And they didn't attend nothing. And I would look in the stands and see friends with parents with posters. And so I told myself, the story I told myself is they didn't come because they don't care. And they don't care because they don't love me.
And that is so common. I think most stories, whether it's your parents, come from that same thought, because that same thought process not showing up. Then that will look like if they don't come to your business meeting or to the company dinner. And when they don't do this, that's not love. It just translates. It just keeps going to the next relationship, that these are the things I'm looking for to prove love to me now.
Right. So check this. Here's where I needed to heal. So when a person I'm in a relationship with does not take an interest in what I'm doing, it says I start retelling the story to myself. They're not doing that because they don't care about me and they don't love me. Now, this is a masculine male telling you I'm exposing my inner thought process. I've never expressed, no woman that I've ever dated has ever heard me express that out loud. So this is what I am wrestling with in my head. punishing her for, and she don't even know.
And most women, I mean, most people will do the same thing, and can't even think of all the different reasons or how we're going to show how this plays out. And hopefully you can start recognizing within yourself, going to ask yourself, whatever that issue is you have in your relationship or that you can say he doesn't do or she doesn't do, and how it makes you feel, and he needs to do that. That's the stuff you need to start with right there and ask yourself, why? Why do I feel this way? You're able to bring it back to your parents not going to the games.
You know when I recognize that? 2018. That wasn't very long ago.
And that is my point. And we have to be okay with that. We have to learn that this is my dear friend Kimberly Davis has a business, Journey to Wholeness. And I swear that is a very good term for life. This is a journey to be whole.
Journey.
It is a journey.
Right.
And it is a journey.
What's up, Davina?
And it's going to constantly change. And we will touch on something we didn't even know. I can hear one thing and think I'm okay. And then when I start noticing a reaction or an issue I'm having, and I start looking back, it's something I hadn't even thought of. And that's why I do think we need the skills, because people say, well, wasn't he like this? What used to really infuriate me is when I would talk to people and they say, wasn't he like this when you got with him?
And the truth is, yeah.
And sometimes no. Sometimes I don't even recognize it at that time,
right.
At that time, I didn't even recognize it. It didn't come up till 10 years later. I mean, sometimes you have to know the process and the healing. If what you're saying, you didn't even recognize it, maybe
till 2018.
So you can't fault yourself. Yes, they probably were exactly like that. Yes, they were. But for you to recognize it, I didn't realize it till now.
But here's what the recognition needs to be. The story that you're telling you about me may not be true. The story I was telling myself about why my significant, my girlfriend, my fiance, or whoever didn't come or isn't as invested in what I'm doing as I think she should be, isn't true.
I think Ernest, I don't know if you'll remember this, but Ernest Tuckett, who's been on our show before, mentioned a story where he went back and had told himself that where he got, where maybe he felt he was ugly or something, was from a small little comment his mother had made when he was like 8 years old that just stuck with him.
Yeah.
And
yes.
and so if we can go back, and then he realized that his mother didn't even mean it, in his adult self, going back to heal that situation, didn't even mean it in the way he took it at that time.
Exactly. And so you have to be okay. Algernon said the reality is it's never true. That is exact. It's never true. Never. You gotta. Here's another level or depth to healing. The story you are telling yourself is almost always never true. If you didn't get the story from the person who you're telling the story about, it's not true. You know what? I actually said, why don't you, I need you to understand X, Y, Z. And you know what I was told? I didn't know that you thought that way. I didn't know that was important to you. I just didn't know. This is where, again, communication comes in. Or
learning the style of communication. Because I want to stop now. You just made me really aware of not just saying communication is key. Because if you don't know the styles of communication, you will think they're not communicating with you because they're not doing it the way you're expecting. And so really learning the styles of how men and women communicate so you can understand what that looks like, so you understand how to have effective communication is important. And so I really want to be able to throw out some tips to help with this process. So are you the reason for your breakup? What is the summation of that to you?
The answer to the question is yes. You are the reason for your breakup. Both of you are. No,
he's his reason.
He's and you're your reason. Yeah, you both are your reasons for the breakup. But here's what I'm hoping to do is help relationships heal. And to do that, we have got to not only understand the other side and how they operate. We can't just tolerate the way the other side operates. We must embrace it and celebrate. So I now, when the person I talk to starts talking, I celebrate the communication style. Okay, I know that and I have to decipher through the thought process, because I realize now what she's saying is how she thinks, is what she's thinking about. It may not be the issue yet. And if I listen long enough and intently enough, I'll find the issue, and vice versa. So the other thing we have to understand is, yes, you are the reason for your breakup. But here's another level to this thing in healing. We have to understand communication styles. Wanda, you so eloquently put that. But let me say, and I don't remember the number, so don't email me or inbox me. But I think the number is 80% of communication is nonverbal. What is being said without being said? Now, check this out. What you answer to that question almost always is your story. You have to realize your story is not true. So you have to find out the other person's story. Because I told myself my ex didn't take an interest in what I was doing because she didn't care. Because that's how I interpreted her nonverbal communication. Was I wrong? Absolutely. I just was. And so we have to, another level to this thing is we have to understand that vulnerability is where healing takes place. There is power in pain. Pain is designed to indicate something to you. That something in you, not in the person, not in the relationship, something in you needs healing. That is pain. God designed pain to indicate something. It indicates something. So number one, we cannot ignore pain. And most of us have something that we didn't like happen in the relationship, and we don't say anything.
And I think, and then that only builds up for women.
It intensifies the pain. It intensifies the pain.
How you explained it, that women, we connect.
Oh God,
we connect things, and I know
I'm good at this. Stories.
Everything you've done this last week is connected. Oh, he did that because he did that, and I put the whole thing. And I know you guys,
right. You build a puzzle that don't exist, right?
You guys think boxing is not connected. This event of him not returning your phone call has nothing to do with why he came home late 3 days ago. But that's how women think. So if you start learning how we think versus how men think, and add that to your communication style, yes, and take the pain and what Kim has said, it's a divine opportunity to heal.
It is. Pain is God's way to give you the chance to heal.
It's a divine opportunity to say, you almost have to be happy that now you've found exactly what I need to work on right now. Thank you for pointing it out to me. And if you don't think of it as a vulnerability of this, but a divine opportunity to find another place to heal, right, and be better, because this is something that actually can be done. We sometimes think healing with the work, and I don't even like the word work because it sounds laboring and intensive, and but we have to do the work. Sometimes the work can be thought out sometimes you can go straight to the first time. If you go to my why am I feeling this way?
Right.
And then take it the next step. Okay, well, I'm feeling this way because I feel like you don't love me. Next step, thinking, okay, well, when's the first time I felt like someone didn't love me? And when you, and then you go back to some of the other times, and it may take you a couple times back because you've had a few relationships where you felt that way. But if you can get to that first time, it really can be healed with feeding that self-love. Going back to, because think of how you think of them now. Right. Not at 5. Right. Not at the 5-year-old self. But I know my parents love me now, so they love me at 5.
Right. You know, when I realized I was making a mistake about the story I was telling my dad, when I had my first son, that little joker was me. And I was like, oh my God. I literally went back to my father face to face and said, I get it now. He said, what do you mean? I said, now I see why you were like that with me, because, oh my God, my firstborn son is me. And my father broke out in tears because he thought I hated him. And I did. Straight up. I couldn't stand him growing up. I was like, this mother, son of a.
Because they're so hard on, some dads can be so hard. My oldest son has that issue with his dad.
Training me.
But and I don't know, I don't want to speak for men, but it feels like, or what I've heard my son say, is that he can never do anything right. He's constantly doing things to try to make him proud. And my daughter even says this about her dad. You're doing things so they can be proud, and that's not if you bring home a B, that should have been an A.
Oh my God, my dad.
What didn't you do? What didn't you do? Because that's unhealthy. That's it. And my daughter, we just had this conversation about her dad, and I've had to sit back and think. I want her to have better communication with her dad, and he's not at the place to have this conversation. He doesn't communicate in this way, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't want to, not trying to place blame, but at the same time, I just want her
Mm.
to understand her dad and try to explain his communication or how not to view this as he doesn't love her, and he's so hard on me and I can't stand him and you can never. And I'm not even sure, and this is something I'll have to work on, because I don't know if you can heal other people through other people or
Mm-hmm.
for other people, but that's a different story. But I want us to walk away with
Let me share something that a healing that just took place even in the midst of this conversation. I was realizing that because my dad would do the same thing, and as you said that, it took me back to a place, and I started feeling a certain kind of way again. When I would bring home 4 A's and a B, and my dad would focus on the B. He wouldn't even mention the A's. But I'm realizing he would always ask me this one question: did you do your best in that subject? And the answer was usually no. And what he was trying to get me to understand is that I don't care, as long as you do your best. Don't put forth any effort that is not your best effort. And if you did that, the results will follow. And so I was used to things coming easy. That if I had to work hard, that was where I would sort of shy away from doing that. And so that's a little bit of a healing that takes place. And so I found that playing out in relationships as well.
And I want to add to that, because I'm the same way and had the same kind of parents that they're going to focus on and you think you've done so well and you just want them to say you did a good job and not focus on the B. But a lot of times why I get so mad at him is because I get so mad at myself. And I still do this to this day. The guilt, anger, frustration of actually not getting that A I put on myself is worse than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so making my dad not be proud, I would get so even internally mad at myself that I'd be mad at him, when I'm kind of mad at myself for not doing. I know I didn't give my best effort. I don't want to be honest with myself.
And see, here's the problem. You just said something. You just said a story in your telling this, and that I had the same story. You said my dad wasn't proud. He never told you that he wasn't proud. Did he ever say, I'm not proud of you? He said those words?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
That was a story. We said you must be reacting this way because you're not proud.
But I think we sometimes want to hear the words. Why do we want to hear the words?
We need that's human nature. We need to hear the words. And I think it's important for men to understand that you are the boundary setter in your home. So your children, men and women, your daughters and your sons need to hear that I am proud of you. You set the foundation for all self-esteem in the house. Males, you do, whether you like it or not. They need to hear the words, I am proud of you. Even God told Jesus, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. If the Son of God heard the words, I'm proud of you, how much more does your son, who does not have the same kind of esteem as the Christ, need to hear, this is my son, or this is my daughter in whom I am well pleased? We all need to hear. So that's a need. I had the same need,
and my daughter does too at 19.
Right, we all do.
And that's what she's saying, that her dad. She feels like her dad doesn't love her, and I'm saying yes, he does. But she just gave me that same great story
it's hard not to interpret it that way.
And that's not a feeling of he doesn't. She feels he doesn't show love.
So then we take that same paradigm into relationships. So the I need you to be proud of me that I didn't get from my dad, we then take into the relationship and we put so there's a hole in our bucket. And now I need you to fill it. So if you don't tell me you love me, or you don't tell me you're proud of me in the words or the way that I need to hear it, I now give you 38, 45, 21 years of trauma that I wanted to give my dad. That's what often happens. We project what we experience in our youth onto our spouse or our mate. And almost always their intent has nothing to do with the actual relationship that we're in today.
So if we could walk away, because we're running out of time.
I know we got 5 minutes.
If we could work, if you could give out just some simple tips to try to are you the reason for your breakup? How do you turn that within? And don't take this as a guilt. We're talking from a place of healing.
Right.
And not a place of, even I think people in this word accountability, they get so hung up on, oh, I take accountability. We're just working on healing.
Yes.
Just being true to yourself, true to your inner self, truth, so you can have better relationships. The whole point of he said, she said is to help us communicate better and to heal ourselves first, because then everything else kind of falls into place. So if you could give some quick tips.
So if you're writing this down, check this out. Number one, there is power in pain. Pain has healing. There is healing power in pain. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Don't close the door on it. Stay vulnerable and open to the power that pain produces. So anything that grows goes through a birthing season. And ladies, you all know how painful it is to bring forth something new, something from the inside of you. So there's power in pain. Continue to push through. And I say that for men and women. Push through the pain. Number one, pain is an indicator of a place that you need to heal in your relationship. So that's number two. Number three, when you start to feel a certain pressure point or pain, I would even call it pressure point. When you begin to feel a certain pressure point, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. The second question you need to ask yourself is, when was the first time I felt this way? And the third thing you need to ask yourself is, how can I respond differently, knowing now that the origin of this pain isn't the person I'm dealing with, it is from my past. Now, the next point is knowing that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. The reason that you are experiencing what you are experiencing is oftentimes you have a purpose. I often tell people your misery is the maternity ward for your ministry. Whatever you're designed to do, whatever you're designed to heal, you must first suffer through. So Wanda, I'm going to use Wanda as an example. Wanda has created an entire platform. Almost 10,000 people come to hear Wanda, come to you view her posts, share inside the group. But it started with the pain you went through.
It's still part of it. It's still the
origin of he said, she said, and the ministry that you, because I call this the ministry that you have on thousands of people. The origin of that was from the misery you went through.
And I'm still working on it. And I will say, another thing that helps me work on it is trying to force myself to be open about it and talk about it.
That's hard. That's hard. That's hard. When you are called to heal others, you must first experience their pain and then be vulnerable and stay open while you're experiencing healing. That is hard.
Because you sharing things and it's a vulnerability.
That might still hurt as you're sharing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the responses to it, how people respond to it from their own views, hurt and make you feel triggered. So it's a constant work, and we're all going to work on it together.
Amen.
I so appreciate you. This is He Said, She Said. It's on IntellectualRadio.com. We try to be here every Sunday at 2 p.m. And we have the group on Facebook, He Said, She Said. Look for the yellow and black, because there's another one out there. There's a few I've had people say, are you this one? No, I'm this one. So look for the yellow and black, but join them all if you want. Hey, you can learn from all. But the purpose of this one is to help with the communication.
Amen.
Learning the different communication styles. If your man, one thing I want women to really know, when your man goes silent, he's not talking, that doesn't mean he doesn't love you.
No, that doesn't mean he's abandoning you. That means he's hurt. 9 out of 10 times he's injured and he's trying to process information.
And so so those,
we don't talk when we're thinking.
And women, I want you to work also on being brief, get your feelings out, being a little bit briefer, because he hears you. Don't think he doesn't hear you.
Oh, we hear you.
Yeah.
We hear you. We just, if we hear you and what you're saying makes a lot of sense, we real quiet.
And please don't take it as nagging, guys. I know it may sound like we're nagging because you like, oh God, she's saying this again. But I'd like for us to work on how we receive.
Yeah, I tell my clients, thank the Lord she's saying it again. Because when she stops saying it and you haven't altered the behavior, she is becoming indifferent. And indifference is the last stage before exiting.
And one thing I like that sometimes he'll say to me, you know what, I heard you. And that's what I need to hear. And then I'll leave it alone.
Right.
Just let me know you heard me.
Yes.
Sometimes I need the verbal because you're not saying anything.
So let me say this because we're out of time, but men, we do need to understand how to communicate better. Even if we don't have an answer to the question or answer to the dilemma, saying that, you know what, I heard you, I need some time to really process through this is an adult way to be in a relationship. It is a mature way to be masculine. You know what, I heard what you said, and I need some time to process it. So the underlying tone to real masculinity is complete and utter transparency and honesty. Most of us men lie to ourselves. The most raw essence of masculine energy is complete and utter honesty at all costs and transparency at all costs. So a masculine male, a man operating in the raw essence of masculine energy, will say to you, I heard you. I don't know what to do with the information yet, but I did hear you. And give me some time, and I'll think I just need to process this.
So you guys, you can reach out to me. I'm Wanda B on Facebook. Look for the it's yellow and black, the Bumblebee. It's spelled B like a bee,
Yes.
Bumblebee, BEE. So you can inbox me if you'd like to be on the show. If you'd like to have a topic brought up you'd like to talk about, please let me know on Facebook. I appreciate it. And tell them how they can reach you.
Reach me on Facebook. I'm at jamesborishade.com. I'm at James Borishade. You can also reach me at you can also reach me on Instagram. I'm Coach James Borishade. My last name is spelled Bori, and then shade, like you're talking about a lampshade. So I'm Coach James Borishade on Instagram, and I'm at James Borishade on Facebook, and jboris07 on Twitter. So you can find me that way. My phone number, if you want to book a session, is 708-462-2280. That's 708-462-2280. And I want you to know you've been listening to He Said, She Said. We want to see you next week at 2 p.m. on Intellectual Radio. Again, you've been listening to He Said, She Said. We'll see you next week, 2 p.m. on Intellectual Radio. Follow us in the Facebook group, He Said, She Said. We love you. Take care. God bless. This is
Wanda B. All the confusion, no confusion. He said, she said, clearing up the drama.